Good evening. Okay, so we're a little late, and some of us are older and we can't eat quickly. You understand that. I had to put my teeth in and everything. But no, we had a wonderful time, and we had a bunch of students connected to the Center for Politics, past, present, and future, over at our new building, which is going to be officially opened on April 10th, and we look forward to, I hope, welcoming some of you there on that day. There will be just loads of famous people. I don't know who they are. They haven't told me. They never tell me anything. But I think it will be more. The food will be good. At least I can tell you that much, because I do approve the menus. I don't cook. Don't worry about that. I have nothing to do with it. Anyway, we had a wonderful time with the students, asking questions of the Speaker Emerita. She was wonderful. She got to eat 2 bites. She answered questions the entire hour and a half that we had over there. So if she looks hungry, you'll know why. But she's amazing. I watched her, as you did, yesterday. She had a full day yesterday, and then appeared on a number of TV shows after the State of the Union. She didn't get much sleep. She was there working all day today, and then came in for the university events starting at about 2 o'clock. So I guess she left before noon. So she's had a long day, and she's had an ability to show everyone how much energy she has. If only we all had that kind of energy. Well, I'm going to get to that's just the informal introduction, and I just made that up on the spot. And I need to read this. I hope you'll understand. Good evening, and thank you. I read whatever they put in front of me. Thank you for joining the Center for Politics for this very special evening. Before we begin, let me first bring out our host for tonight's discussion, who has helped the Center for Politics many a time. You know him as a national correspondent for CBS News Sunday morning, one of my favorite shows, and chief Washington analyst for CBS News. But his most important role tonight is as a scholar with the Center for Politics here at the University of Virginia. Robert, we'd like for you to come out right now, and I think actually his parents and his aunt and uncle are here in the audience, and maybe his entire family. I don't know. Please have a seat. Please have a seat. Now, the woman needs no introduction. Did you notice? You didn't need an introduction. However, I'm giving you one anyway, because we have an award to give. And my staff will be very unhappy if you don't get this award. They're our guest of honor, of course, and we're giving her a warm Virginia welcome. Her roots are in a distinguished Maryland family, once described as the Kennedys of Baltimore. How about that? It's a local political dynasty, transferred, I guess, to California, rooted in community service and civic engagement. Among other leadership roles, her father was the chairman of John F. Kennedy's 1960 presidential campaign in Maryland. And I believe you saw Senator Kennedy with your father in a restaurant one night in Los Angeles at the Democratic National Convention. It's absolutely incredible. I guess you were 2 or 3 years old, somewhere around there in 1960. A young Nancy stood on the Capitol steps for JFK's inauguration, January 20th of 1961, foreshadowing her own activities. In 2007, skipping ahead, she became the first woman ever to serve as Speaker of the House, breaking the marble ceiling. She served 2 full terms then under first President George W. Bush and then President Obama. And then, incredibly, she became Speaker again in 2019 under some other guy. I've forgotten his name. I told the Speaker earlier, as you notice, I'm sure you all listened to that very short State of the Union address last night, and he actually brought up the Speaker Emerita. And so I told her that she is living rent-free in his head still. Very impressive. But he hasn't charged her rent yet. We'll probably get to that since he likes money. Over the years, she has shepherded and helped enact consequential laws on civil rights, economic recovery, climate action, the Affordable Care Act, and much more. ACA was wonderful. Each year, the Center for Politics presents the Defender of Democracy Award to honor individuals whose positive actions help improve or strengthen democracy. In its inaugural year, the award was presented to 9 U.S. Capitol and D.C. Metropolitan Police officers who defended the Capitol during the terrible January 6th attack. And let's remember, that was the first attempted coup d'etat since the Civil War. It really was. It wasn't just an insurrection. It was an attempted coup d'etat, so not a minor event. The following year, the award was presented to former Governor L. Douglas Wilder, the nation's first elected black governor and a lifelong public servant. Last year, the award committee selected Evan Gershkowitz of the Wall Street Journal, journalist there whose wrongful detention in Russia underscored the essential role of free press and expression in democratic societies, of which Russia is certainly not one, as we have all seen. And now the 2026 award is given, another year for you, Robert, is given to our guest of honor tonight. In the toughest moments, Speaker Pelosi's commitment to American democracy has been unmistakable. We'll never forget how you reacted January 6, 2021 in helping to save our democracy. It could easily have gone the other way, but she insisted that the House return that very night to complete its critical constitutional duty, and she later was instrumental in forming the bipartisan January 6th Select Committee to safeguard our institutions, and they did a wonderful job, even if some people don't agree. For a lifetime of service guided by principle and courage, and for expanding the circle of participation and leadership in this nation, especially by energizing young women, which you just did at the dinner. They were so excited to hear your thoughts about women being involved in politics and how we need so many, many more. We are pleased and proud and honored to present the 2026 Defender of Democracy Award to Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi.
Wow, this is a surprise. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, that's exciting. That's beautiful. Is it going to take a picture? Oh, here he is. There's the picture. Take the picture. She'll take a picture.
Oh. She
Thank
saw
you.
things I didn't see.
Beautiful. Thank you
We'll
so
make
much.
Robert, take it away.
Thank you, Professor. Well, thank you so much, Professor Sabato and the University of Virginia Center for Politics team for all of their hard work in putting this together. We really enjoy having these events here, and we appreciate all of you coming out tonight to the Culbreth Theater for this conversation. It really means a lot to see your participation. But another round of applause for someone who's truly a historical figure with us tonight. Speaker Pelosi, you are so generous to be here at the University of Virginia. We really appreciate your time, your leadership in this country. So many people here I know watched the State of the Union last night. They're watching this administration. They're watching your institution, Congress. If we just take a step back, how do you see, as someone who has twice been Speaker of the House, who has been at the pinnacle of American power, who understands politics from the bottom up, how do you see this moment for citizens like all of us here?
Well, thank you very much, Bob, for the invitation to be here, for your leadership in the community, in being a beacon of light in the freedom of the press, which is the guardian of our democracy. Thank you, Bob Costa, for your leadership in that regard. And to Professor Sabato, I've been a fan of his for many, Bob's, yes, but Larry's longer. Thank you for this wonderful honor, which I will display with great pride. on Capitol Hill when I return the next day or so. Now, when you ask me about last night, I'm really thinking more about today. Today, we are in Virginia, a state that was so central to the founding of our country in every way, starting with the patriarch of our country, George Washington, but others who contributed intellectually in terms of ideas about freedom, and again, next after that, how we would govern when we were free. So it's an honor to be with each and every one of you. As I look out there, it's very dark, but I know the future is there. I can see some of you. And to be with young people as we go into the future, just to relate where we are to where we were last night. I have very serious concerns about what we heard last night because they're a far distance from where we came from Virginia 250 years ago. Our founders had this brilliant idea. Imagine how blessed we were that they had this idea about freedom. That writing, Thomas Jefferson and others helping, but his leading the way in writing the greatest sentence ever written, that all men and women are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That was our vision. The Constitution became our game plan on how we go forward. And we take an oath to protect and defend that Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that means any assault on the Constitution, on our democracy. And what is a democracy? I'm thinking this last night. A democracy is about the brilliance of our Constitution, the separation of powers. Separation of powers. Remember this, Article 1 of the Constitution is the legislative branch, the preeminent branch of government, and then the executive branch, and then the judiciary. So with that, and then what is it? It's free and fair elections. It's an independent judiciary. It's the rule of law, due process, all of that thought out by our founders into this game plan, this Constitution of the United States, which we take an oath to. And I couldn't help thinking about how in violation of that we were. Because remember, in the preamble to the Constitution, we the people of the United States, remember that it's all about the people. What the people want, what the people think, that's freedom. We the people of the United States form a more perfect union, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, the list goes on. In that preamble, all of that ignored in that speech last night. So it takes us to a place where how do we stay true to the vision of our founders, respect the fight that our soldiers, our men and women in uniform have made for freedom for us and for freedom throughout the world, and most importantly now for the aspirations of our children, our young people, the next generation, to live in a country that is free, that is fair, and a country that is healthy for them to thrive, saving the planet. I didn't hear much of that last night, but that doesn't mean it isn't within our grasp. But we want to do it in a way that recognizes that our founders believed that democracy could succeed because people were good. The American people were good. People wrote about how good America was. America's great because America's good, all that, attributed here and there, sometimes not always accurately, but nonetheless. And that goodness would make us be fair to each other. So we don't want to say we're going to correct what we saw last night by tit for tat. No, this is about back to our roots, back to our roots. And it's a pretty exciting thing when you think about America and the beacon of hope we have been throughout the world. But hope springs from belief in something better that springs from the goodness of other people. So I wasn't thinking so much about him, and I knew he'd take his shot and this or that. I was thinking about the future.
What about Congress? You have been twice the Speaker of the House. When you talk about the balance in our system, the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judiciary, your institution, which you have led, Congress, how does it reassert itself in the coming years?
Well, it goes, again, back to our roots. Our founders had the House of Representatives as the people's house. That's how we think of ourselves. We're the people's house. We have to be elected every 2 years, not 6 years like the Senate. Well, the Senate was appointed when they were first in the Constitution. They were appointed. We were the elected body. Now, every 2 years. And therefore, you had to be in close touch with the people. And that is what the essence of democracy is, ruled by the people. So I think we go right back to that and just say, we don't agonize about what somebody else said. We organize about what our destiny is, proclaimed by our founders. In this great state, much of it proclaimed. So it's how do we bring people together? A more perfect union. At the time of our founding, Thomas Paine, up north, but Thomas Paine said, the times have found us, found them, our founders, to form a democracy, free us from another country. Imagine the courage they had to fight, to declare independence, to free themselves from another country, fight a war and win the war, and then to establish a new country based on these principles. The courage of our founders to enforce their vision. So when we talk about it, now he said the times have found them. The times found Lincoln, President Lincoln, to keep the country together. Just think of the challenge that was, a civil war. Keep our country together. Lincoln said it in his greatest speech, his second inaugural, with malice toward none, with charity toward all. And that has to be how we proceed as well, as the times have found us. As times have found us to save our democracy, to make it the model and beacon of hope to the rest of the world, a model of democracy that is the vision of our founders, the success of our men and women in uniforms, courage, and again, the aspirations of our children.
Speaker Pelosi, you and I have spoken about how politics is a very rough business, and perhaps no one knows that more than you. You just talked about the theme of hope, of courage amid turbulent times in this country. Your family, I'm sorry to say, has experienced this up close. Your husband, Paul, was nearly killed.
Right.
Yet you retain hope. You retain this sense of optimism about the country. Where does that come from, and how do you sustain it, and how should others here, whether they're Democrat or Republican, learn how to carry on amid turbulence in America?
Well, I appreciate that question because people always ask, where is hope? Where's hope? And I always say the same thing. Hope for me and hope for us always springs, I have it on my arm so I can read it to you. Hope always is where it always has been, right between faith, hope, and charity. If you believe in the goodness of others, that gives us hope that we can succeed. The civil rights movement was built on faith that gave them hope that things could change. So that's where I would get hope, but I also get hope separate and apart from the assault on my family and the rude statements made by those in power in the White House and their friends. That was demoralizing. It's traumatizing for your family and for your children when not only do you have the horrible experience, but that people think it's funny. And that's really pathetic in terms of those who engaged in that. However, I receive hope beyond that in the young people in the future, because the challenge that you make, the questions you ask, you have to is again, don't agonize over it, just organize about the future you want to see. And again, I have hope in the arts. I think the arts give us so much hope because say some of us go and we don't know each other's political beliefs or whatever, and we go to a play or we go to a concert or we go to a museum or whatever it is, and we are inspired together. A play, we laugh together, we cry together, we're inspired together. We find common ground, and any amount of common ground is a good start for finding other common ground that we may have. And so whilst we might be of different parties or different places within a party, the common ground of our love of our country, and again, demonstrated by how we see the arts. Thomas, well, again up north, John Adams, he wrote to Abigail, he said, "I must study war and politics so that our children, so our sons, may study science and medicine," and he didn't say technology, but he went on with different architecture and the rest, so that their children can study music and art. He even said tapestry and things like that. An ever-broadening range of opportunities, but raising the arts to a very important place as an expression of freedom in our country that is reflected in our Constitution of the United States. So the arts are central to the soul of America. It's been said again and again by presidents and others. But there's a reason for that, because it is unifying for us. It's unifying for our country. And let's hope that the arts, more importantly, our young people, give us hope as to how we go forward and understand what the genius of the Constitution is: the separation of power, checks and balances, the legislative, the executive, the judiciary, but in balance. And that's what we're missing now. That's what we have to get back. When we get it back, it won't be to do quid pro quo, but it will be to honor the oath of office that we take.
You've often said, Speaker Pelosi, that the system works best when women are encouraged to be part of the leadership structure, not only in the political realm, but in corporate America, at nonprofits and institutions. You were so kind tonight. She met with a large group of Center for Politics students, and I was struck as an observer. Young women in the audience were still asking you in 2026 about expressing a bit of apprehension about being a woman, pursuing a political career or a career in activism. Could you reflect on your own journey as a woman who has made it to the highest level of power, about what you heard tonight from younger women and how your own experience can both inform the present and the future for them?
Well, I love this question because one of my goals in life is the increased participation women in the political and governmental process. Nothing is more wholesome than that. It's so very important. No offense, gentlemen, you should be at the table, but the table is not complete unless women are at the table. And I must say, men, women, and the diversity that our country is reflected there, because then we will come up with our best ideas. Now, some people have heard my story again and again, but I never intended to run for public office. So when I look at women, I'll say, just be yourself. That was the best advice I ever got when I read. Just be yourself. No one like you in the history of the world. No one like you. And whether it's your beautiful education at the University of Virginia or your upbringing, so lovely, and just the community you lived in, the aspirations you have that make you an individual. Your authenticity is so important to the greatness of our country and how we go forward. So be yourself, know why you're getting engaged in all of this. So I'll go into that in a moment, but just to say, I never intended to run for public office. It's really funny to me that I became the second most powerful person in America, the President of the United States, the Speaker of the House. The Vice President is a position, but there's nothing like the power of the Speaker of the House. You make laws, you do all these things every single day. And to think that a woman would have that position, I never thought that woman would be Speaker of the House before a woman would be President of the United States. I'm sad that people say, oh, you're the most powerful woman in the United States. I wish that weren't so. I'd like to relinquish that honor to a woman President of the United States. But until then, here's the thing. So people came to me and said, you must run for Congress. I had no intention of running for Congress. Forgive my dinner partners for hearing this again. I had no intention of running for Congress. I was a volunteer in politics. And we called our volunteers in politics our VIPs, our very important people, volunteers in politics. And that I loved because I was orchestrating as chair of the California Democratic Party, a behind the scenes, shy role, advancing others and promoting our agenda. Then they came to me and said, you love the issues, so you should be running for Congress yourself. No, I don't know, no. So they insisted upon this and so much that I said, well, I'll ask my family. So I go to my daughter, Alexandra, who was 16 at the time, and I said, Mommy, notice, Mommy has been asked to run for Congress. I've never aspired to that. That's not my ambition. But they keep asking me to run and because of who I am and what I believe and my energy, whatever it is. They've asked me to seriously consider this. And I said, I'm asking you, Alexandra. She's 16. She's going to be a senior in high school, young for her age. But I said it would be better if it one more year because if I'm in Congress, what happens is I would be there 3 nights a week when Congress is in session. So I'd be gone 3 nights a week. So any answer you give me, I'd love my life to be here with you and Dad all the time, or if you think I should run for Congress. Mother, Mommy, remember Mommy was asking the question. Mother, get a life. What teenage girl doesn't want her mother out of the house 3 nights a week? This was a revelation to me in many ways. I had never heard of Get a Life, and I didn't know she wanted me out of the house. Well, then I did. And so I went from kitchen to Congress. And my why, it's rough. It's rough out there when you have to go out there and fight and all, was the 1 in 5 children in America who lives in poverty. 1 in 5 children in America goes to sleep hungry enough. I couldn't stand that. As a mother of 5 myself, I was like, well, who among them would be the one who would not be taken care of? So the children were my motivation for the children. So people have heard me say, when you're in the arena, sometimes you have to take a punch, and sometimes you have to throw a punch for the children, for the children. So in any case, then later, when I'm in Congress, they said, you have to run for leadership. No, I love what I'm doing, my appropriations, my intelligence work. I love my committees. I like that, and I don't know how long I'm staying anyway, so no, you have to run for leadership. But then we lost 94, 96, 98. 2000 was coming up, and I thought, I am really tired of losing because of the issues I believe in that are not served by our defeat. This is about why you're there. So anyway, one thing and another, I laid out a path, which would be too much to go into, that we won the House, and I became the Speaker because we won the House. And when I ran for leadership, the men said, imagine this is in this century, okay? Who said she could run? Poor babies. Why would they say such a thing? And then things like, why don't you women just write things on a piece of paper of what you want us to do, and the men will get it done for you. So sad. So in any event, I said, I don't want anybody to vote for me because I'm a woman, but I don't want anybody to vote against me because I'm a woman. I want you to vote for me because of my policies, my politics about how I can win this election. I know I can. And we did. won a big election. It was the first time we had won. It was 2006, and it was the first time we had won since 1992. So if you want to be Speaker of the House, you got to win the election to have the majority of the votes to get that done. But then it became just a remarkable occasion to have the power to make the laws, to assign the committees and everything that is there. It's a very powerful position. And it's the only position, Speaker of the House of Congress that is mentioned in the Constitution of the United States. At the time, I was, too, the highest paid person on Capitol Hill as a woman. That was a big deal. Not that I was there for the money, but it was just interesting as we fight for equality. We're still trying to get many more women in Congress. When I was there, it was 23. When I went the first day, 23 out of 425. Now, think of that. 410, more than 410 men and 23 women. So I made that decision that we'd have more women. So now we have like 96 women on the Democratic side, 30-some on the Republican side. But we've all made progress in that regard. So, to your point, know your why. Know why you want to do this, know what you care about, knows your vision, but then the knowledge about it, and then the strategy about how to engage other people to get something done. That's all in the head. The vision, the knowledge, the strategy. What's in your heart is what you have to tell people. I care about you. I care about our country. That's why I want to do this. It's my why, and the empathy for the people that you have. If you do that, you will be a leader. You will attract support. You never know. You could be the first woman. No. We have to have a woman president of the United States soon, but you never know. It's on the horizon. And when we have one, as we have had one woman speaker, we certainly want more women speakers.
Let's talk more, Speaker Pelosi, about your own why. You have made the decision not to run for re-election this year, and after you made that decision, you put out a wonderful video that was really a love letter, if you haven't seen it, to the city of San Francisco. And beyond that video, I went back and watched your first speech in the House of Representatives. And some here might know it, but what you spoke about in that first speech, HIV/AIDS. Your why has been so tied since the beginning of your congressional tenure to not only for the children, as you say, but for San Francisco, for those suffering from HIV/AIDS. Talk about this adopted city and region, how you fell in love with it, and how it became your why, especially on that issue.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I'm from Baltimore. I'll talk about that later, about our patriotism springing from there. But when I went to Congress, of course, my motivation to volunteer in politics in the beginning was about the children. We've got to do this for the children. And sometimes I'd be pushing 3 babies in a stroller. And I was telling someone earlier, sometimes when you try to go distributing political leaflets in buildings, they don't let you in to distribute political leaflets. But if you're pushing a stroller and you're saying, trick or treat, you can get, some of my kids have said my first political action was in a stroller. Actually, it was in New York City where the 4 of them, of the 5 were born. But anyway, when all this was happening, we had a complete assault on our city of HIV and AIDS. And it's important to talk about this because it's an act of patriotism what happened after. We had so much science. We had the San Francisco General Hospital and universities and all the rest that provided the intellectual resources to fight against AIDS. But we didn't even know what AIDS was. It wasn't even called that. It was something that was referred to as a disease that could have been from the Middle Ages because it was about losing immunity, so anything can attack your body. So in my volunteer work and the rest, and as a party activist, a Democratic Party activist, we knew so many people. We were going to 2 funerals a day. A day. It was horrible. And Bishop Mark Andrus is, I think, in the audience, and he was the bishop in San Francisco for some of the time before I came here. Mark, where did I see you? Give us a wave. Over there? So Mark knows this well. And we, at his cathedral, Grace Cathedral, is the Episcopal Bishop of California, at the Archbishop. There, they were so welcoming to all people who needed religion, whether it was to be buried or to be baptized or whatever. So that was important. Even though I was Catholic, I was getting communion at the Episcopal Church. So when I went to Congress, we were very, how do I say this? We did everything from the community level, everything from the bottom up, community-based prevention, community-based research, community-based care, all of that from the bottom up. So I went to Congress and knew exactly what I wanted to do. And all that was the basis for the Ryan White Care Act. Beautiful Ryan White, that lovely boy. We named it for him. But when I went to Congress, people there said, when you get introduced, because I came in a special election, it wasn't with everybody who comes, it was in June. So when you get introduced, don't speak. Nobody wants to hear from a new member of Congress. That's what my welcome was. And I said, okay, I don't care about speaking right now, the first day, I'll have my time. So then they said, then the speaker said, would the new gentlewoman, Congresswoman from California wish to address the House? So I go up, and as I go up, they're saying, be short, be really short. So I go up, and I'm very short. I thank my mother and father who were there. My father had served in Congress, so he was right next to me on the floor of the House, which was a floor privilege he had as a former member. Thank my parents and my family and my constituents who sent me there. And I said, I told the people of San Francisco that when I came here, I would tell you that Sala, she's the woman who wanted me to run, sent me, and I'm here to fight HIV and AIDS. Thank you. And I'm thinking, how short was that? Was that not even a minute? So I go back and they're like, oh. So what's the matter with all of you? I was short. They said, why would you want anybody to know about you? The first thing to know about you is that you were here about AIDS. Why did you tell them you came here to fight against HIV/AIDS? I said, I told them that because I came here to fight against HIV and AIDS. But that was the first I had learned of discrimination. We just didn't have that in San Francisco. Right, Mark? I'm Bishop. And so it was a real lesson to me, discrimination. Now, not that the people that were giving me this advice shared that discrimination, but they thought the rest of the body did. And of course, we had a president then who wouldn't even use the word or anything like that. So it was a difficult time. So again, my first words on the floor of the House were about HIV/AIDS. My last bill that I signed in my first 2 terms as Speaker was to end the legislation to end Don't Ask, Don't Tell in the military. And then in the next 2 terms, my last bill I signed was the Respect for Marriage Act and for same-sex marriage. I felt very proud of that.
Speaker Pelosi, you just mentioned your father, and
Yeah.
one of the fun moments I had as a young reporter years ago, you brought me into your office and showed me the picture on your wall of your father watching Winston Churchill when he came to the House of Representatives. So you have this history with the House, with America. Just for a moment, reflect on both your father and your mother and how they have influenced you all these years later.
I appreciate your asking that. Well, I'm the youngest of 7 children, 6 boys and 1 girl, the youngest. Nobody ever thought I would be interested in politics. You can imagine those many years ago. My oldest brother, Tommy, he became the mayor of Baltimore after my father was mayor of Baltimore. So that was where it was. And I didn't have the faintest interest. I was interested Elvis Presley, rock and roll, rock around the clock, dance and sing and all that. But where I was born in Little Italy in Baltimore, Maryland. The Catholic Church was central to our existence, and we were, all of us, born devoutly Catholic, proud of our Italian-American heritage, fiercely patriotic, in love with America, and in our case, staunchly democratic. But democratic then did not mean that your Republicans were an enemy. They might be your opponent in debate, but they weren't the enemy. We all were friends to each other. It was a different thing. I mean, it wasn't that you didn't compete in a race, but it wasn't enemy. It was competition. And my father was, my mother really taught me probably more about the fact that you must own the ground to win the election. Mm-hmm. So you just have to organize, organize, organize. But not just to win the election, but to win on the issues. That I learned from my father, because he was in Congress and all, and when I was born. And to win on the issues, you had to have the public sentiment as well. So it's always about, our democracy is dependent on public sentiment, what people think. Lincoln said it best: public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish almost anything. Without it, practically nothing. But for public sentiment to prevail, people have to know. And that's the challenge that we have. I learned from my parents, but have seen evidence of throughout, that when we take back the House, now be allowed a political moment, and we will, Democrats will take back the House in November. Just civics, really. Current events, not politics. When we take back the House, there are three things we have to do as we go ahead in these weeks. Protect the integrity of the elections. Protect the integrity of the elections. Win the election, again, and again, put forth what we will do differently when we win. And all of that to be hopefully as non-menacing to the other side as possible, and hopefully unifying. And I keep saying to the Republicans, take back your party. The country needs a strong Republican Party, something quite different from what we're seeing now, in my view. But far be it for me to tell the Republican Party what they should be. But we do. Ronald Reagan said some of the best things. Shall I quote him?
Sure.
Two things. One, he said, and this relates to what's happening that I'm so sad about in Minnesota and in the country. And that relates to what the president talked about last night when he was say people were bad and all that. You know, it was really, you must want to run out, but anyway. So Ronald Reagan said this. Now, Ronald Reagan was a great communicator. For all of you, maybe your parents weren't even born when he was president, but he said this. He said, "This is the last speech I will make as President of the United States." Imagine that, the great communicator. Everybody listens, right? And I want to communicate a message to the country I love. His speech was given just a matter of hours before George Herbert Walker Bush became President of the United States, his vice president now becoming president. So it was really his last comment to the country. He then reflected on the national anthem and the beacon of hope the national anthem was to the world. And that because America's door was open, our country was the greatest country in the world because our door was open, and we were constantly replenished by people with their ideas and their optimism and their courage and their hope for the future. But if we close our door, our country will cease to be preeminent in the world because we will lose that invigoration. And then when he was president, he passed the biggest bill. He even expanded on it. He went to court and won on it to expand opportunity in America in that way. His son did the same thing, although he couldn't get a bill passed because the Republicans just wouldn't do it in the Senate, George W. Bush. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't secure our borders. We certainly should. But it does mean that we have to respect the people who come here with their hope, their optimism, their courage, their family values, these immigrants make America more American, and they are an asset to our country. He also said something about tariffs, which I was thinking of last night. Because you asked me about, he started off by asking me about last night. So talked about what the president said about immigration, how different he was from Reagan. And of course, again, we have to manage our immigration, but we have to respect it as well. On the tariffs, what the speech I love that Ronald Reagan made was, he said that when he was like a teenager, in the country, they had something called Smoot-Hawley Act. And this was a tariffs act, a protectionist act. And he said people went around and bragged about it, that was going to create jobs and do this or that. But you know what Smoot-Hawley gave us, he said? The Great Depression. The Great Depression. So my first vote, as turning of age, my first vote, Ronald Reagan said, was for Franklin Delano Roosevelt for President of the United States. And he voted for him subsequently after that. And now he said, today I see these same people, same kind of people going around talking about how tariffs are, we're going to help our economy. And they're doing the same thing. They're wrapping themselves in the flag as if they're patriots, when we have to be very careful about losing jobs, not gaining jobs, and the cost it is to the American people. Ronald Reagan. Jobs and tariffs, immigration, and greatness of America. Also, his third speech I love is, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
We can go to the Reagan Library together sometime. Have another conversation there.
I've been there.
Oh,
I've been
I know,
there. I
I'm
was
sure.
invited by Nancy Reagan to be there. I've been there. But
Californians,
the thing is
people
that there wasn't, there's common ground, as I said, the arts or our beliefs, our country, our patriotism take us to a place of what we strive for, a more perfect union.
Speaking of California, I had the pleasure of being in your state a few months ago to cover Proposition 50, the redistricting effort that happened there last year. It was successful for the Democrats. I spent a lot of time with Governor Gavin Newsom, who you have been a friend, mentor, a close ally for a long time.
I don't know if he would call me a mentor.
I think he would.
A pest, but I don't know.
What's your assessment, knowing you're close, what's your assessment of him at this time, 58 years old? He's been through a lot. He's on a book tour right now. Does he have what it takes? And I know it's early, Speaker, but does he have what it takes to win a national election should he decide to run?
I didn't know you wanted to talk politics here today. Let me just say this. Right now, my focus is on winning the House of Representatives. I guarantee that we will, because we made a decision to be single-focused on winning the House of Representatives, to make a difference in the lives of the American people. We think that our democracy is at risk because of what's been happening in this administration. But to save our democracy, we must save our democracy at the kitchen table, lowering the cost of living, ending inflation, all of that, job creation, not shutting down the Department of Education, but providing for education for all of our children in a very strong way. All of the things that healthcare, the cost of healthcare, more families declare bankruptcy because of healthcare costs than in the past than any other. So that's my focus, is on safe election, win the election, make a difference in the lives of the American people. Now, I view the winning of the House as the path to victory in 2 more years to the White House. It was when we won in 2006, the path to winning in 2008. It was in 2018, the path to winning in 2020. And this year, in 2026, it will be the path to winning in 2028. We have a great field of candidates, There's a bench that is fresh and new and energetic and young and all of that. Among them is Gavin Newsom. He's my governor. He hasn't asked me for support, but I think he's great. I think any one of them would be a great president of the United States, and I think any one of them would be a much better president of the United States than we have now.
Just to pause on the midterms for a second, you've won power 2006, 2008. You come back, this amazing comeback story for the House Democrats led by you. You don't quit. What's it going to take to really win the majority in these closing months? And what perhaps keeps you up at night about where could Democrats make a mistake as they approach November?
Well, I'm very, my whole thing is when we won in 06, I was certain we would win because of what we did in 05. We just built our foundation as well as our organization to win. Harry Reid and I did. He won the Senate, I won the House. Together we won. Same thing in 18. We didn't win in 18, we won in 17 because we were ready. We were ready. And we knew how to take advantage of the opportunities. And when you make a decision to win, you make every decision in favor of winning. You don't say, well, we're going to win, except oh, maybe we want to do this, or let's figure about that. No. This is it. It's about the message and the discipline there. It's about the mobilization to own the ground, to get out that vote. And the third is the money to get the job done. But the mobilization, they will have endless money, endless. When I say endless, I mean no end to their money. But since they have no commitment to fact or truth, we must insist on the truth. Insist on the truth in the election as we go forward. So our groundwork was done in 17. I only stayed this last term in Congress to win this election now, because from the House, I have a better vantage point in the rest to win. And I'm excited about it. I do my constituent work and all that, but win the House for the children. And so, I stay up night more about things like why we need to win. Not about if we're going to win. We're going to win. But the sadness of, like yesterday, with all the horror of the speech, in my view, what really stunned me, and I'm rarely stunned, I'm never surprised, but frequently stunned, was when the president announced how many people he kicked off of SNAP, the food program, how he reduced the number of people, many of them children, who would have access to SNAP. And the Republicans gave it a rousing ovation. You're taking food out of the mouths of babies, and that's a standing ovation? That's not shared values. So that's what keeps me up, is making sure that our purpose is clear in the public mind. Now, let me just talk in another language to you for a sec. When Martin Luther King went to India in the 50s, and his grandparents born in the 50s, and when his grandparents went, Gandhi had already been assassinated years before, but he was studying Gandhiism and nonviolence to prepare him for the nonviolence of the civil rights movement. But in Sanskrit, Indian language, one of the Indian languages, the word for nonviolence, satyagraha, means two things: nonviolence and insistence on the truth. And that's what they did nonviolently in the civil rights movement, insisted on the truth of their situation in that. And we have to insist on the truth in what's happening in our country. Public sentiment, but we have to make sure people know the difference between what this means. Who would think it's a good idea to cut $1 trillion out of Medicaid, taking many children and seniors on long-term care and all that off of Medicaid, $500 billion out of Medicare, hundreds of millions of dollars out of SNAP program in order to give a tax break to the richest people in America. That's just not a statement of values if that's our budget, and our budget should be a statement of our national values. So that's the fight that we have. So people should know. And it doesn't mean that we have to be fiscally responsible. Of course we do. And every poll, every chart will show you that Democrats have reduced the national debt more when we have been in office than they have. But you don't, the common knowledge doesn't subscribe to that so clearly. So that's what keeps me up, is to make sure that we win for the people, for the children who need help. My big thing in Congress was the Affordable Care Act, which was hard to do. I love doing it, and we want to do more, But the opposition that we received from corporate America and people who are anti-government and just Republicans, plain and simple, was such that it was like, well, don't you want people to have health care? And the main thing that helped us, again, getting back to public sentiment, is people telling their stories. My baby was born with a heart condition. It cost $1 million before the year was out. My wife had breast cancer and couldn't have access to this or that. My father had a stroke. My child is born with disabilities. All these things, and there's an answer, but it is something that you have to do instead of giving tax breaks to the wealthiest people in our country.
Speaker Pelosi, for our final question here, so many of the questions from students today in our dinner and that were submitted ahead of time really come down to one central theme, one question. Should I run? Should I get involved?
Yes.
Should I care? There's a lot of fear out there among certain people. Fear about the future, about the economy, and whether you're young and a student here or older, there's a sense of whether Americans should engage or not in their community, their town, their political parties. What's your counsel to a Democrat, Republican, or independent here who's teetering toward apathy, non-involvement? And perhaps also, if you could just close, you mentioned the national anthem, a great Baltimore tune, Francis Scott Key. Mm-hmm. We are at the America 250. If you could just offer some counsel to those who are worried about the future and worried about themselves, whether they can stay involved, be involved, and any closing thoughts on the national anthem.
Well, that's a lot of questions.
I know.
The last questions. Yes, but let me thank you, because Mr. Costa, Bob has been such a leader, young in his generation, in his field, and putting forth the ideas and the concerns of young people, and to doing so with such excellence in terms of his presentation and the rest. So when he invited me to come, I felt very honored, not just to be at UVA, but to be invited by Bob.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to be in the company of Professor Sabato. I've been a big fan of his for a long time. I don't know where I had the faintest idea where he is now, because I didn't see him. But to thank him for his hospitality, his leadership, and the wisdom he conveys to us over time. Yes, you know, it's funny, it's interesting what you say about the concern that young people have, and we hear it all over the country. And in the last election, what was scary to me is that my friends, like, I've been active in the Democratic Party, and I have friends who've been active in the Democratic Party, some of them younger than me by a generation, young as my kids. And one of them said to me, who was a chair of a party, a state party in our country, and she said to me, you know my 3 boys, you've known them since they were babies. Right now, I'd be lucky if I could get one of them to vote. That was 2 years ago, okay. Now, so you have to take ownership of the future. It belongs to you. There are people who think there's never been a better time than to be young in America now for all of the possibilities. But again, your uniqueness, young people, they tell me, young people respond to authenticity. So the authentic you don't have to be somebody else or like somebody else. The authentic you is what this country needs. That's what people will respond to. That's how the country will benefit. So my slogan is, we don't agonize, we organize. Just go out there and know why you're involved, know what you care about, and how you're going to get it done, as I've said before. If you have a vision, if you have a vision, if you have knowledge and you have a strategy and you show your empathy, that's leadership. So you all have that within you. So at least for a couple more elections, give America a chance, because our founders deserve that. Our men and women in uniform deserve that. And again, you deserve that, most importantly. You deserve that. And it's pretty exciting to spread an idea or to talk to people and they respond to you. I had a party the other night. We had a state convention in San Francisco. It was our state convention, but it was our turn to have it in San Francisco. So I was hosting the Young Democrats of California. They said we'll probably have about 200 or 300 people. Over 800 young Democrats showed up at the party. And they were so enthusiastic about being together and with each other and how they could organize. Don't agonize, organize. And so I'm optimistic about young people, enough young people being willing to take the lead. The country needs you. And I say this to the women as well as to the young men here, and especially with beautiful diversity in mind. The country needs you. Whatever it is that we could do without you, we can do infinitely better with you, and not anywhere near meeting the goal that our founders had in mind for us, a more perfect union. That's what we have to try to do, is to bring people together. I say to my Republican friends, take back your party. I think we should have a strong Republican Party in our country. Not a cult to somebody, but a real Republican Party. So Bob's mom and I went to the same college, decades apart, but nonetheless, we shared our alumni. So I've always had sort of a special interest in this wonderful son of Trinity College, now Trinity University, that we both went to. And he asked me to talk about, again, the national anthem, because I talked about this earlier with some of the students. I've told you I grew up in Little Italy in Baltimore, Maryland, an Italian section of Baltimore. And right near there was the Fort McHenry. This is like on the port, and then Fort McHenry. Fort McHenry is where the Battle of 1812 was fought in Baltimore Harbor, one of the battles there. And Fort Francis Scott Key was there, and he wrote the national anthem there. So I say to people all the time, when the national anthem plays, there's one line in there that just makes it all for me right now. And that is, you know, Rocket Glitter Bumps first thing, proof through the night that our flag was still there. Right now, we are in the night of this democracy. We are in the night. It's going to be much better in 8 months and 10 months, but right now, we're proof through the night, and we must prove that our flag is still there. That's in the anthem. And the pledge that we make every day, the flag is still there, with liberty and justice for all. That is what our challenge is now, as spelled out in our anthem, our Pledge of Allegiance, and also in our Constitution. We the people, and there we are, the people again, it's about the people. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. That is our charge. The flag is still there with Liberty and Justice Call, forming a more perfect union. So whether we like what somebody else believes or not, we have a responsibility to reach out to form a more perfect union with respect for difference of opinion, but also commitment to what our founders had in mind. So that's why it was such a thrill to come here to Virginia. I came here when I was in college, University of Virginia. It wasn't co-ed at the time. They had something called Hell's Weekend, but I don't think they have it anymore. I think once it became co-ed, that went out the door. But anyway, it was beautiful then, it's beautiful now. And Mr. Jefferson, what an inspiration to our country to have the pursuit of happiness in part of our national document. Doesn't that inspire us to do our very best to have happiness for our children, but also safety, security, and again, a democracy in which they can thrive and reach their aspirations. God bless America. Thank you all.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Thank you. Wonderful.
I don't have any questions for the audience, right? Thank you.
No. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll come around here. Hi, guys.
Thank you very much for coming. I don't know if Larry has a few more words, but thanks again to Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Where's Larry? Is Larry here?
Oh, we're done. We're good. Thank you very much. That's it for tonight. Thanks again.